Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. I'm Ryan Lazanis. Hope you're all having a good day so far. If you could just pop into the chat, let me know that you can hear and see me okay. That would be a great start. Also, let me know where you might be joining me from today. I'm in Montreal. We're having beautiful fall weather. And yeah, so I'm excited to kick things off. We don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to jump right into it. Today's session is the 7-step process to attract and hire top talent. And there's a couple of things that I want to leave you with today. First off, I know that recruitment and finding great talent is really tough. So I want to help you. I want to give you the exact process that I use along with my students to help them attract and land the very best talent out there. I want to give you 8 places where you can find your next rockstar team member. I want to give you, since Workflow Con is all about streamlining workflows and efficiency, I want to give you one tool that you can use to help automate part of the recruitment process that saves me a ton of time. And I also want to give you the best questions that you should be asking in your interviews to isolate the low performers from the high performers. And I'm just monitoring the chat right now. Lisa, thank you very much for joining. Glad you like the podcast. And if you have any questions for me, I'm going to try to get to that in the end. I have a lot to cover, so I'll do my best. There's the Q&A button that you can use on the screen to leave questions for me. So I want to give you a little bit of context so you know where I'm coming from before we get started. I'm a husband, a father of one 4-year-old daughter. I'm a triathlete outside of my professional life. I'm also a CPA that's born and raised in Montreal, Canada. I started one of the earlier online accounting firms in North America in 2013 called Zen Accounting. I had a lot of great ideas when I wanted to start this kind of new model. I had a lot of great ideas. The problem was I was extremely inexperienced. I was starting with 0 clients, had no clue how to sell services, had no clue how to price the services, had no clue how to market. I'd never hired or managed anyone in my life before. And I was really starting from scratch and I had to learn everything from the ground up. And I made a ton of mistakes. It cost me a lot of money, very time consuming, very stressful, but ultimately realized I was a systems thinker and put together the system to take my firm from scratch all the way to acquisition in just 5 years. I was acquired by a large corporate services firm based out of the Isle of Man, out of Europe, which was very interesting to close that deal. As soon as I transitioned the business over, I founded Future Firm in 2018 to be the resource I wish I always had when I was trying to scale up my modern firm. I started Future Firm basically as a blog, which morphed into a newsletter and then a podcast to give all kinds of actionable tips and tricks and tactics to help firm owners not only scale, but most of all, reclaim their time and freedom. And about 3 years ago, launched the Future Firm Accelerate online coaching program and community, which now has over 750 active students from around the world that get access to the system to help them create more freedom in their business, self-paced training on a variety of topics that are of interest to them. They get access to coaching when they get stuck, and an amazing community of modern firm owners that they can tap into to share tips, tricks, and best practices. So now that we have a little bit of context of myself, I'm going to dive into the session. And ultimately, team building was the most painful thing I had to go through when I was running my firm. These are all the LinkedIn job posts that I put out in the early days where I was just not finding anybody. Naively, I thought that hiring was actually going to be very easy when I put out my first job post, but I very quickly realized that that was going to be far from being the case. And I had an incredible amount of difficulty finding people, but even more difficulty keeping people. They were turning over left, right, and center. And there was nothing more stressful than having someone leave the company and having that work fall squarely back onto my shoulders, especially when the company was growing. So it was super painful, super stressful, super expensive. And I needed to educate myself on how I could excel in this area. And ultimately, I figured it out. It took me a lot of time, but I was able to assemble a great team. And I'd say the team was part of the reason my firm was able to be acquired so quickly, because I didn't have the business did not rely on me, basically. And with Future Firm today, we have a team of around 15. everyone's offshore. This is a picture of our team retreat in Bali last year. We'll do another one in the Philippines. But today, my situation is incredibly different from when I first started. This is far from being the biggest stressor in my life. And this is all thanks to the process that I'm going to outline for you today. I want to establish just a couple things before we jump into the process itself. Why do you need a great team? Well, a great team is going to give you leverage so that you can scale. It's going to help you increase the value of your business. It's going to be a great team will help you remove yourself from being the bottleneck of your business. So not everything is bubbling up to you. And ultimately, this is all going to help you improve your quality of life. I truly believe a great team will help you improve your quality of life. Problem is that finding great people is tough. This is coming from the AI CPA, a survey they did recently. And if you look at row 4, finding qualified staff, for every firm above being a solo firm, it's ranked as the top 5 pain point that's going on in their firm. And for most of those categories, it's number 1 or number 2. So it's incredibly difficult to find good people. I want to give you a couple stats because, and these stats are important. I'm going to refer to them later when I outline the process for you. Almost 1 in 2 newly hired employees were considered failed within the first 18 months. That's significant. So they're either turning over or they're not performing well in their role. 1 out of 2. We don't want to be in that statistic because studies find that the cost of a failed hire is up to 2.5 times their salary. So we definitely don't want to fall into that statistic. What's the reason why most employees fail? When I saw this, a light bulb went off. And I think this is going to resonate with a lot of you. We often test our candidates for technical competence, but actually the reason, 89% of the time, the reason why they're failing is not because they can't do a tax return or a bank reconciliation. It's because they don't have the attitudes required to succeed in the organization or in the role. They don't have the attitudes required to succeed in the organization or the role. So what we want to do is we want to create an effective recruitment process that not only helps us attract talent, but keep them on board. In order to do this, there's a couple things that we need to know. We need to know what is the purpose of our recruitment process. We need to know why someone is going to join you versus someone down the street. And we also want to know how to avoid the biggest reason why employees don't work out, which is not having the right attitude. So we want to devise our recruitment process in light of these 3 things. Now, the purpose of your recruitment process is to land an amazing 2-way match. It can't just be good for you. It has to be good for the candidate as well. So when we're going through the recruitment process, we need to uncover, is this the type of firm or business that's right for them? Is this the role that's right for them or not? So we need to uncover that. If it's just right for you, not good for them, they're going to turn over very shortly after. And I am monitoring the chat, everybody. So if there's anything, I do look over it from time to time. I know there's some questions that might be coming and I'll try to check those out later. Okay. Why do high performers join your team? Armed with this information, we can go into the recruitment process to bring these to the forefront because this is what high performers are looking for. Good compensation, job security, upward mobility, a flexible environment. They want to have an impact in your organization and in society as a whole, and they want to join a team with a shared set of values. So these are the things that need to come to the forefront when we're devising your recruitment process. So before we jump into that 7-step process, just want to summarize a few things. We know it's very expensive to bring on the wrong person. We know the reason why most employees fail. We know the motivations high performers have for joining your company. And we know that most firms list finding people as a top challenge. So we have this information. Now let's move to a 7-step recruitment process that's going to help us attract and land high performers on your team. Step number 1. And by the way, the slides, I believe they're available. I think there's like a resources button. There's a couple of resources that I have for you. There's a bunch of templates that I have for you throughout this session, which you can download. There's a link scrolling at the top of the chat or in the resources section. So if I'm going a little bit too fast on these slides, all of this is available for download. I know the process works because I've used it myself, but this is also the process that we give to our students. We have a lot of good testimonials from it. Daniel runs a firm out of the UK and US, and he used the process to hire 2 rockstar employees and improve their click to application rate by 35%. And the way he improved the click to application rate and got more applicants through the door is from step 1 of the process, which is the most important step when it comes to attracting talent, is your job posting. You need to post a job posting that attracts. Now, the purpose of your job post is two things. One is to clarify who and what you're looking for, and 2 is to sell the position. Number 2 is very important because the number 1 thing that you should be doing in your recruitment process is to sell better. Your recruitment process is nothing but a sales process. Whenever I see firms that are coming to me and saying, Ryan, I'm struggling to get good people coming through the door, I don't know what to do, the first thing I look at is their job posting. And more often than not, their job posting is exceptionally generic. It looks something like the job posting on the left, which was hiring for a manager. The one on the right is also hiring for a manager, yet it gets 10 times as many applicants in less amount of time. The reason for that is that the former is simply posting a very generic, boring, bland posting about a job. And high performers are just going to gloss over that. They're looking at dozens of positions every single day. It's not super fun stuff to go through. Whereas the latter post is highlighting the uniqueness of the firm, the uniqueness of the position and the role. And believe me, every single firm or business out there has something unique about them. We just have to bring that to the forefront in the job posting. So selling your firm and the role is critical. So if we're looking for a bookkeeping associate, instead of saying you're just going to be doing bank reconciliations and payroll and month-end closes, et cetera, look at what Bench does. If you skip down a little bit in their posting, it says, our associates are directly responsible for helping our clients survive and thrive through their monthly and historical bookkeeping. This is important now more than ever. They're selling the role. They're selling the impact that their bookkeeping associates are going to make for their clients' lives and society. Contrast that with 99% of job postings for a bookkeeping associate. This one is far more exciting. 2, give them reasons to join. Give candidates reason to join. Look what Ignition does. And this is what we do in our posts as well. Very high up in our job post, we have a section, why join us? Here's all the reasons why you should join us. We have a cool team that works with these kind of clients. We have these types of paid time off policies, et cetera, et cetera. Give them reasons to join. Here's a template you can use. This is the exact template that we provide to our students. You could download it down futurefirm.co/recruitment. Just fill in the blanks. If you just follow this, you're going to probably do a lot better than what you're doing right now. So we want to make the job posting excite candidates so that we increase the pool of candidates available, especially the high performers. I did a session in Vegas a couple years ago on recruitment and attracting talent. Paula came to me after the session saying that she was unable to find anyone to fill a position and they were desperate to find. She used the job posting template and posted it on Indeed and LinkedIn. They got over 1,000 resumes. They found their perfect person. Step 2, perform your search. Well, now that we have the posting, we have to put that posting somewhere. So where do we put it? There's a couple of tactics I'm going to show you. Luke used some of these tactics. He got 87 applications in less than 24 hours. So team referrals, this is the highest quality tactic available or strategy available because you're going to get the highest quality candidates this way. Put a bonus system in place for your team. We have a bonus on signing, and you could do a bonus on that individual being there for 3 months, as an example. So team referrals. LinkedIn and Indeed, these should be fairly obvious. Truthfully, we're not doing Indeed that much anymore these days, but LinkedIn is always there. Facebook groups, I think, is quite effective. If you search Facebook, let's say for accounting jobs, you're going to find a whole bunch of groups. So look for the groups that have the most members and that are the most active. And then you can just post a little simple, this is what I posted when I was still running the recruitment process at Future Firm. I posted, we were looking for a developer. We wanted to offshore that. So I joined the WordPress Jobs Philippines group. And I posted this and I just said, we're looking for this role. Here's the perks. Remember, that's the YS section. I led with the perks. And then there was a couple other parts to the post which got cut off here. But we found our developer who's still on the team today. Update your careers page if you have any traffic at all coming to your website. If you don't have much traffic, then maybe this is not super interesting. Hire a recruiter, but be careful with this one. Don't do this anymore, and I only did this in the early days, and it didn't really work out unless you know a recruiter that's doing good work. I had to bite the bullet on numerous instances where we paid 20% of people's salary, and they turned over. Now it's my fault that they turned over, no one else's fault, but it's very expensive if you don't know how to hire good people and keep them. You might want to ditch this strategy. What I did instead, because I couldn't afford to, I didn't want to pay 20% of salary anymore for people that were turning over, I became my own recruiter. I signed up for LinkedIn's recruiter platform. I took a day. I shortlisted a bunch of people that I thought would be good for the position. And a lot of times it's people that aren't even actively looking for jobs. I put out a little message like this, and I was able to land some of our most senior talent that way. So I became my own recruiter. And you can post on some niche job boards. Like, let's say you're looking for a virtual assistant out of the Philippines. There's onlinejobs.ph. In Canada, we have CPA Canada or CPA Ontario, and you can post on their job boards. There's niche job boards for pretty much every role out there. You just have to find them and post your job there. Okay, step 3. Now, since WorkflowCon is all about streamlining workflows, here's one step that I think is going to greatly help to render this typically very inefficient process much more efficient, and that's to automate candidate screening with one-way interviews. I've been doing this for at least 7 years now, and I'll never eliminate this from the process. Basically, a one-way interview is where you use an app to load up certain questions that you want to ask the candidate that you send to them to answer on their own time. What that means is you're not wasting time in interviews with people who might not have been a good fit and didn't pass the first few steps of your test. So, benefits of a one-way interview: it tests early for critical attitudes. So there's, as I mentioned, 89% of failed hires failed due to having the wrong attitudes. So we want to identify the right attitudes, and I like to test early on for some of those attitudes in a one-way interview, and it saves a ton of time because you can just run through the responses in a couple minutes for each candidate. Previously, what I was doing before I had a screening process like this is I was just going into the interview, and within the first few minutes, you might understand that this is not the right fit for you, and there's no easy way to end an interview after 3 minutes. At least in my opinion. So this screening process really helped save a lot of time from interviews that are not gonna work out. Disadvantages of one-way interviews is it lengthens the recruitment process, and anytime you are lengthening a process, you're going to get more people dropping out of it. So it actually may reduce the number of candidates in your pool. You're going to need an app. I used to use an app called Spark Hire. Now I use an app called Vervo. They're both very similar. I don't care which one you use, but allows you to load up different questions into the app, which the candidate can answer on their own time. Now, sometimes I ask them to respond via text, so they could write out their response, so I can test their writing. Sometimes I'd ask them to respond by video. Depends what we're trying to test for in the one-way interview. And I know that I'm not really monitoring the chat that much right now, but if you have questions for me, pop them into the Q&A, and I hope to get through as many of those as possible before the end of this. If someone's not wanting to complete this one-way interview, I don't want them on the team, and if they can't figure it out, I don't want them on the team either. Now, step number 4 is the most important step when it comes to identifying the right talent for your team. So this is where we want to isolate the high performers from the low performers, and that's going to happen with a one-on-one interview. Your interview questions are key. We want to go into this strategically. We don't want to just go in and have a conversation. We want to go in and look for the types of answers that we want to go into this strategically. We want to go into this understanding like there's certain things I'm specifically looking for from the candidate from their interview answers. So there's 3 types of questions to ask in an interview. The first set of questions are warm-up questions, and here we're just trying to get things to be a little bit more comfortable with the candidate, because interviews are generally quite uncomfortable for at least the candidate. So here it's just questions of, tell me a bit about yourself. What do you do for fun? Tell me about what your passions are in life. We just want to open up the conversation and try to warm things up a bit. And then what I want to do is I want to move to goals questions. Now, remember, the purpose of your recruitment process is an amazing two-way fit. So we want to assess whether the candidate is good for us, but we want to also assess whether the position and the organization is a good fit for them. So I like to try to understand the gap. The gap is, here's where they are now, this is what they're looking for now, and this is where they want to be. And can we help get them there? If not, then we're going to see them turn over. So, I like to say something like, what does your ideal job look like right now? So if and I've had this happen to me, we're interviewing for a bookkeeper role, and the individual comes in and they start talking about how audit is ideal for them at the moment. So obviously we don't want to bring someone like that on board. Then we'd ask something like, what would success look like in a year from now? If we have someone that's a junior that has no experience, and in a year from now they want to make partner, as an example, well, that could be a red flag. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's probably unlikely. If that's where their mindset and head is at, though, it might be difficult to satisfy them. So we want to try to use these types of questions to see, can we offer what they're looking for, and can we help them get to where they want to be realistically? Now, the most important questions, in my opinion, are the attitude questions. This is where I focus most of my time. Remember, 89% of employees fail due to having the wrong attitudes. This is the book that changed everything for me, Hiring for Attitude. Because previously, I was just looking at skill, and I was just seeing, could they actually do the work? And that's where I got into all the issues when it came to turnover. So the first thing that we really want to do is, what are the 3 to 5 most critical attitudes that an individual must have on your team to succeed? And for me, these are the ones that I've identified, because the opposite of these are the problems that I was encountering. First, I need someone that's humble. And a team full of humble people is an extremely beautiful thing, in my opinion. Nobody's pointing the finger, people are accepting blame, and they're moving on to solve the problem following that. The opposite of humility is being self-centered, and these are people that are extremely difficult to satisfy, and they're going to cause headaches. So I need someone that's humble on the team. I need a problem solver. I don't need a problem bringer. And I need someone that's coachable. And many of you might have encountered this previously, and I see this with a lot of our students in our program, where they say, I have this person on the team. I'm getting very frustrated because I've provided the training, I've provided instructions and directions, and they're just not following it. And the same mistakes are being made over and over again. And when that happens, we're dealing with an individual that's not coachable. And when you have someone that's not coachable, they're not able to accept and implement feedback, which means you're not able to truly delegate the work. And that means you can't get that work off your plate. So I need these 3 things. Absolutely. I don't care how talented you are. You're not making it on the team if you're not humble, if you're not a problem solver, if you're not coachable. So now that we've identified the attitudes that are required to succeed, we want to develop interview questions that test for critical attitudes. The tip here is to develop non-leading questions. Here's a leading question. If I want to test for problem solving, a leading question is the following. Could you tell me about a time when you had to overcome something really frustrating at work? Now, every single person you interview is going to tell you about a problem they've encountered and how they've overcome that problem with a solution. That's not testing to see if they're naturally inclined to be a problem solver, because you're literally asking them, you're leading them. But a non-leading question is going to be something like this. And this is the exact same question that we use in our one-way interviews. Can you tell me about a time when you faced something really frustrating at work? So here we're asking them to identify something problematic. A natural problem solver is not just going to identify the problem or the frustration, they're going to volunteer the solution. I don't care what the problem is and what the solution is. I don't even listen to it. I practically don't even listen to it. I'm just looking to see, did they volunteer a solution? Did they tell me this was the problem and this is the solution that I used to overcome it? If they do that, then they check the box and I can move to the next attitude question. And by the way, all these questions, I have a bank of questions that you can download in that template pack. So you don't have to write these down. All of these are there. I won't go through all of them, but the one that tests for humility is something that we also use in our one-way interview. Can you tell me about a major mistake that you made at work? All I'm looking for here is someone that states a mistake and doesn't deflect blame, that they accept the responsibility. If someone deflects responsibility or can't think of a mistake, they don't make it past that step of the recruitment process. Okay, step 5. Okay, I'm just monitoring the chat now. Kristen, I saw that comment. Okay, conduct effective skill tests. I want to get insight into how these candidates work before I bring them on board. I want to further test for things I might not be sure of, or certain skills or capabilities that I absolutely need. And I want to further test for certain attitudes. And there's a variety of ways you can do this, and there's a variety of skills I like to test for. And it depends on the role that we're looking to fill. It could be customer service skills, attention to detail, following processes, level of judgment that they exert, a level of tech savviness. There's a variety of different skills I like to test for. So for an example, for a bookkeeper, I'm looking for someone that could interact with the client, someone that's detail oriented, someone that could juggle things and meet deadlines, someone that could follow processes, since we're dealing with a lot of modern firms in this day and age. We want a bookkeeper that can juggle 5 or 6 different apps, and someone that could write well. Now, we want to then devise the skill test. Here's a skill test that I used early on when I launched Future Firm to hire virtual assistants. So I wanted to see, could they follow this process that I was linking to? Could they exert some level of judgment if some of the steps aren't super clear? So I intentionally tried to jumble things up a bit. Can they use Loom or some of the apps that I'm mentioning here with no instruction whatsoever and just figure it out on their own? Can they pay attention to some of the details I'm asking for? So example, I asked them to keep walk through your response in a Loom video, but keep the video to under 5 minutes. So if the video is 8 minutes, I know that attention to detail is not maybe in their skill set. So things of that nature. Some skill test examples for positions in a firm could be, a tax manager reviewing a dummy tax return, asking them to spot errors and opportunities, an accounting manager emulate a month-end review, things of that nature. We also want to provide clear instructions about, deadlines and timelines they have to complete the skill test, and also payment instructions, because we're not making them do work for free here. We're going to have to pay them. We're going to have to compensate for this skill test. Jeremy, I do agree with you. I agree with your comment there. Okay, step 6. We're doing not bad on timing, everybody. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to get through this, and we're going to have a couple minutes for Q&A. Reference checks. This is a little bit of a formality, truthfully, but I want to at least speak to someone that previously employed that person and email them these questions. Um, Phone calls for reference checks, people aren't really doing that as much these days. We just send the email for these questions just to see if there's any red flags we want to look out for. Step 7, submit an attractive offer. So again, we want to keep the excitement levels up. Remember, the high quality candidates, A players, they have their pick of the litter. They're probably evaluating a bunch of opportunities at the moment. So we need to keep the excitement up. One tip is I want to eliminate money from the equation as much as possible. I made this mistake in the early days of running my firm. As I mentioned, I had one of the earliest online firms in North America when I launched it. And there was some people that were very excited to join that kind of model. I was a startup though, and I didn't have a ton of resources. So I was able to get people in at far below what they were currently making. And that's all well and good until they realize a couple months later that, and they're getting offers from others at market value or above. So I never want to play that game. I always want to make sure that they're getting paid what they're looking for, provided it makes sense for us as well. People have a certain mindset about what they're worth, and trying to bargain someone down usually is not going to work. Definitely, it's not going to work in the long run. That means you might have to get a little bit creative with your compensation package. We also, again, want to keep the excitement level up. Previously, I would probably modify this slide now. Previously, what I was doing is I was sending an email, and a video walking through the offer, but also talking about the exciting opportunity that we have available. Now our director of operations, she actually just has a call. So this step is replaced with just having a call to walk through the offer. We also want to set expectations. I said we want to, we want to get the candidate excited, but if there's some mess and they got to get their hands dirty in the early days, we want to make sure they know what they're walking into as well. And you could consider a deadline for acceptance. I do this very, very rarely, but sometimes when someone is evaluating, 3 or 4 different options, we might want to apply just a little bit of pressure. Okay, offer accepted. So if you follow these steps, I feel very confident that we can get some good people through the door, land some good people, and get these people staying in, throughout at least the first 18 months, because those first 18 months really come down to making sure we have people with the right attitudes. Remember, your recruitment process is a sales process. It's nothing more than a sales process, and testing for attitudes is critical to landing high performers. There's a bunch of templates that I mentioned to you already that you can swipe. If you need more help, there's 2 additional resources I have for you. The Future Firm Weekly Newsletter. It's going out to close to 10,000 readers weekly. I write these all myself. 2 short weekly emails with proven tactics and templates to help you systematize your firm and work less hours. You also get this when you sign up, an ebook that I wrote, 79 Tactics to Save Time in Your Firm. If you need even more help, I'd be more than happy to welcome you into our Future Firm Accelerate online coaching program and community. You get the system to scale your firm while reducing your workload, in the form of self-paced training. You get coaching. I host regular calls with members in a group coaching environment when people need to pick my brain. We have over 750 members from around the world inside the program. These are modern firm owners that are doing a lot of cool things. The forums are a great place to pick up all kinds of little nuggets. We have tons of success stories. This is really what keeps me going. I'm there to be the resource that I wish I always had for these individuals. And if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy. Just shoot me an email and I'd be more than happy to help. 6 minutes left. I'm kind of doing this rapid fire right now to make sure I get through. Oh, not that many questions actually. I got through that a little bit faster than I wanted to because I thought I'd have more questions. So if you have any questions for me, please drop that in the Q&A. But Shannon asked about 28 minutes ago, what are your favorite places to find team members? So I listed 7 of those in the presentation. So if you have any questions of those, please let me know. Candy, you're very welcome. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Jeremy, super happy that you're finding value from Future Firm. Georgia, really happy that you're liking the newsletter. And you providing, I like this. Deanna says, never, never skip the reference check. What else? What else? What else? Okay. Eileen, great idea. Would you consider a one-way interview to also be a personality test like Myers-Briggs? Look, I'm not, there's a lot of things that I think we do well in this recruitment process, but I think there's things that we could probably be doing better. I know some people like using a Myers-Briggs test. Is there a way to incorporate that somehow? There probably certainly is. I've never used that in my processes. I think what's important here is that you're attending a lot of different sessions, and there's a lot of knowledge being thrown out here these days, a lot of free knowledge that I think is very valuable. And I think you should take, I think there's some people that will like to take this as a carbon copy, and there's others that will maybe like to borrow some of these elements and build it into their own process. And that's kind of how I've grown my businesses, is by picking and choosing what I like best and making it my own. Like a lot of these questions that the interview questions that I've developed, did I invent this? I did not invent this. I borrowed some of those concepts from the Hiring for Attitude book. So I think we can pick and choose what we like best, or you can simply carbon copy. It really depends on the person. Okay, let's see. We got some more questions here. Ryan, what do you believe will be the greatest challenge in hiring as AI takes a greater stage in technical skills? I mean, I think it's just honing in on people that have the right attitudes to succeed. I think, like, we've heard about AI taking over our jobs. We've heard about AI, taking over more and more what we do, but the human element is not going to go away, if ever. So we really need to hone in on that and humanize ourselves as much as possible. How could we humanize ourselves through this process to candidates, right? So we don't appear cold and overly robotic. That's what automation can do. You can sense that there's a coldness to it. So how could we warm up this process for candidates and humanize ourselves a little bit better? All right, 3 minutes. Christine, is there anything you are considering adding to your process in the future? No, I think this process works very well at the moment. I'm very fortunate that I don't handle this process at all. I have a director of operations that does all of this. I don't do any of the recruitment. I don't do any of the interviews. I might, from time to time, jump on a second interview if we're not sure about something, but I don't do any of the recruitment. And I've delegated this process to our team, and it's being handled very well. So I'm very happy with the process. Christy, how do you deal with people who embellish or flat out lie throughout the process and are clear after onboarding they're not the right fit? So I think you can mitigate that with a skill test. You can mitigate that with a skill test by having them emulate certain tasks that need to get done. Why did you shift from operating an accounting practice to training and education for accountants? So I have a podcast episode specifically on this. Why did I sell Zen Accounting? So you might want to take a look there. I had a great business on my hands. I had a lot of opportunities coming my way, and I was very confused about what to do next. But really, I came down to clarifying my purpose. And when my purpose became clear that I wanted to help advance the accounting profession, I've always been very frustrated with the accounting profession and the lack of resources that firms received. And I believe that a lot of it operates in a very archaic way. I wanted to be that resource. So that's a big reason behind it. Nicole, what are some of the ways to be creative with employee packages beyond salary and vacation days to attract better staff? It could be different types of bonus structures, It depends on the role, but different types of bonus structures. Nick, how do you compensate candidate for skill test? Basically, and this is probably going to be the last question because I might be cut off. Basically, we estimate the amount of time we think the skill test is going to take. We see what the candidate is asking for, and we just boil that down to here's the hourly rate times these amount of hours, and this is what you're going to be paid for this skill test. Ooh, okay. I made it through. I think that's it, everybody. I think I'm going to get cut off soon. So if there's anything that you need help with or questions that you have, my contact information is here. I want to thank the Financial Sense team for inviting me once again. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'm sure I'll be connecting with some of you down the road. All right, everybody, have a nice day, and that's it. Take care.